I'm Floyd Wooderson. Welcome to another session of my personal memoir, Wolves of Hemp Street. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on those bell notifications to make sure that you don't miss new chapters being uploaded weekly. Thank you for having integrity and tuning in. Chapter 12. The Night of. Part 1. Friday night. Just like clockwork, Teddy and I pulled up to Bozeman at 8:45 p.m. The night was darker than usual due to a thick layer of clouds sometimes peeking through the white sliver of the waning crescent moon. It had an ominous feel, and something just seemed off. We exited Brad's truck that Teddy had borrowed for the night and did the first couple of rounds together. Teddy would sometimes stick around a bit into my shift to help out, but also to plan for future security measures. After he had installed the cameras at Rocky Road, Bozeman was next on the list and was a much bigger task, needing much more prior forethought. But any planning that night would be cut short. Teddy was notorious for leaving his phone in places for extended periods of time, missing calls and texts constantly. Tonight was no exception. Not more than 10 minutes into arriving I received a call from Faye. "Give the phone to Teddy." There was a sternness in her voice, so I didn't hesitate. 10 seconds into listening he turned to me wide-eyed, then looked back down as he listened in further. I stood there frozen on what to do. Do I get ready? Do I wait on what he has to say? Is this incredibly important? "Get your shit, we gotta go," he said to me mid-hang-up. He said he would fill me in on the way but that we needed to go now. Running back into the barn apartment, I scrambled to gather all my gear that I had yet to put on. With no time to suit up, I threw my drop-leg holster and newly bought tactical vest in the truck and got in. Teddy punched the gas, and we screamed out of the front gate. Justin just called Faye and said that a box truck was opened and backed up to one of the containers. He said it is still running, with the door open, and no one in sight. All of the workers left hours ago. Justin, who had moved his truck and a small camper trailer from Rocky Road to Sunflower, was the only person camping there who could watch the hemp. He had just got back from a late dinner when he noticed the box truck there in the loading position. Sunflower was about a 10-minute drive from Bozeman, and Justin, who was no stranger to weird circumstances, just wanted someone else to get there quickly. Teddy never let off the gas. When we pulled up to the main gate, Justin and his truck were about 200 yards away. Right next to his truck was the box truck, in the same position as Justin had described it, lights on, Lincoln Park blaring through the sound system, and sure enough, backed up to one of the containers loaded with hanging plants. Once seeing us, Justin drove toward us as we met him about halfway from where he was and the front gate. "I'm not sure exactly what happened, but when I got here about 20 minutes ago, I saw the box truck like this, so I immediately called Faye and I haven't seen anyone," he said with rapid-fire urgency. Teddy replied in a laid-back tone, "It's all right, man, we have it from here. Can you just stay right here and watch this gate while we look around?" "Of course." Finally able to strap up, I threw my vest over my head and grabbed my flashlight in one hand and my gun in the other. I was so frazzled and adrenaline heavy that I never got around to putting on my drop leg holster. Instead, I held my gun, still holstered, and started looking through the dusty dark corners of the containers. With my best NYPD impression, I mimicked what I saw in the movies, flashlight in one hand pointing straight forward and my gun arm resting on top aiming the same way with the gun still holstered. Idiot. When the containers were all cleared I started panning the flashlight across the fields, half expecting to see Michael Myers or the Scarecrow from Jeepers Creepers staring at me. In the meantime, Teddy had called Angel, he and Kelly were on the way. While waiting for their arrival, I hopped in the bed of the truck with a spotlight and Teddy drove around the property to look for anything out of the ordinary. It was a huge property, with plenty of nooks and crannies for hiding. We started with a perimeter drive around, spotlighting down the ditches, in bushes, and up trees. When we crossed over a small bridge and followed the ditch line, we ended up at the owner's barns, sheds, and farming equipment. It was like a map on Call of Duty. There was an open area in the middle with a small patch of grass and some tractor equipment. On either side of that patch were 2 dirt roads. There were multiple old trucks sitting around, tractors near the barns, and more containers filled with hemp. On the far end was a trailer home, which was the farmer's son's place. Teddy and I were hoping not to disturb him with our aggressive nature. We cleared the containers and continued on past the RV, ending up on another long, straight dirt road that was the back entrance to the property. Teddy put the truck in park. We sat there not more than 2 minutes when off in the distance a pair of headlights turned onto the dirt road heading straight for us. It was going to be a 50-50 chance as to who it could be. It's the backup for the thieves. They're gonna be armed and try to get into a firefight with us. Am I about ready to be in the middle of a new Netflix special? As it got closer I could tell that it was another pickup. The engine was roaring like a lion, and out of the front windshield on the passenger side I could see a green laser shooting out into the field off to my right. Teddy flashed the brights in order to signal the truck, prompting the green laser shut off. The truck came screeching to a halt in front of us, and Teddy got out and yelled, "It's us, it's us." Realizing we were the good guys, the two doors opened and out popped Angel and Kelly. "Jesus, we thought you could have been the robbers for a second," said Angel. "Yeah man, that's why I was flashing my brights at ya." "Okay, where's the truck?" Kelly said, getting straight to the point. I piped in, "It's at the front of the property, at the first container. It's still on and blaring music. Not sure if someone was there, got scared, and bailed when Justin showed up or what. No sign of any." Before I could even finish my sentence, Kelly and Angel were already back in the truck and sped off. We followed. Along the way, Teddy pulled out his phone again and made a series of phone calls, one including Julian, who I'm sure passed the news on to Billy, Eli, and Steve. He then called Trent, telling him and Hunter to be on high alert back at Rocky Road. It was time to lock down all of our locations for fear of multiple hits. Back at the box truck, we got out again and re-inspected the area and the containers, seeing if there were any signs of an attempt to load up the truck or any other clues that may lead us to a justifying conclusion. It was then that Kelly decided to make his presence known. The green laser that I had seen 5 minutes earlier was a laser attachment to his CZ Scorpion. With the laser again turned on, he went to the edge of the field, letting hellfire rain down into the darkness. "This is our fucking hemp. Stay the fuck away," he yelled and then fired a dozen or so rounds. Chills went down my spine. I felt empowered. "Yeah, what he said." Teddy gave us the rundown. "Okay, we have to go back to Bozeman and fill Seth in. I want 2 people up at each location for the night. Justin will stay here too, and I will be back after I drop Floyd off at Bozeman and run by Rocky Road." "Yeah, we're going to check on Rocky Road right now to make sure that it's locked down," said Kelly. "Alright, cool, we'll keep in touch." Teddy and I rushed back to Bozeman to make sure that it was still peaceful and untouched, which it was. Teddy, who was on a mission to get back to Rocky Road, dropped me off quickly as I made sure to close and lock the gate behind him. I rushed into the barn apartment and woke up Seth, who couldn't have been asleep for very long. His eyes opened with confusion and grumpiness. "Hey, sorry to wake you, but there's some weird shit going on and Teddy wants 2 people awake tonight. I'm gonna do a barn perimeter walk if you could clear the inside. Meet back in front of the barn in 10 minutes. As I'm sure he was eagerly waiting for me to fill him in further, when I got to the front of the barn he was already there. "So they haven't found anyone yet?" he asked. "Nope, but the box truck was backed up, and it very clearly looked like someone was trying to jack the containers. We circled the property for about half an hour, but couldn't see anything. To be honest, I have no idea." Our conversation was interrupted when we both noticed headlights on the far end of the property, driving perpendicular to us, toward the owner's house. They seemed to have come in the other entrance, the one we were told to never use. Is that the owner and his wife getting home? Or, seriously, what the hell is going on? And then as those headlights disappeared behind the silhouette of the house, and as if Murphy's Law was in full effect, headlight beams started to appear at our entrance, eventually coming to a stop at our closed gate. Like deer in the headlights, we stared at them, blinded by the light. Chapter 13. The Night of. Part 2. Teddy once told all of the security that we needed to be incredibly cautious going up to a car aiming at you with their headlights on. You have very limited vision, while they have 20/20. A prime example of this is the police and military. As we have seen in plenty of TV shows, movies, and even real footage, police and military will use a flashlight to their advantage to blind, distract, and confuse their opponent. In theory, that will influence a surrender. However, that doesn't always go to plan. Sometimes the opposition will indeed fire toward the light, putting those behind it in danger. Now, I definitely wasn't going to start shooting at the headlights, but as Seth and I were in the position of vulnerability, I couldn't help but wonder if we had got. That those behind the wheel were our enemy and they had the upper hand. Nonetheless, my hand rested on top of my holstered gun, finally properly attached to my leg. "Floyd?" yelled a familiar voice. Yeah, who's that?" "Angel dude. Hurry, get in the bed of the truck, we gotta go back to Sunflower." My mind tried to comprehend but couldn't. In a split second I tried to do the math on the time elapsed since we had left the other farm. It couldn't have been more than 20 minutes. It didn't seem to add up how they were here already. It takes at least 15 minutes to get from Sunflower to Rocky Road. Then, even if they got there and immediately left, that's another 15 minutes back to Bozeman. They either didn't go all of the way there or they had driven like Steve McQueen in Bullet. Regardless, Angel and Kelly were doing the rounds, next making sure that Bozeman was safe and secure. Seth, I gotta go with them. Call me if anything happens here. He didn't even have to mutter a word, his body language said it all. His eyes rolled, his arms went up in the air then dropped to his sides, and he let out a huge sigh. He was visibly frustrated and not amused. After a long day on the farm, he was woken up with not more than an hour's rest, still didn't know the full extent of what was going on, and now I was leaving him all alone again. I'm sure he was thinking, fuck this, I'm going back to bed. I crawled under the PVC fence panel on one side of the gate and jumped in the bed of the pickup as Angel turned around and roared down the long gravel driveway back to the main dirt road. Turning the opposite way that I had never been before, he floored it. Remember the talk about the freedom you feel riding in the bed of a truck? This wasn't that. This was like being in a spaceship getting sucked into a black hole. We must have been going around 60 or 70 miles an hour with the wind ripping above me as I looked out into the black abyss. My recent luck with truck beds wasn't great, and this was a disaster waiting to happen, an Apollo 13 type disaster. The theory of relativity was also working its magic. What was really only a minute until we reached a T intersection felt like 27 years. Yeah, you better just get in the truck, Kelly yelled out the passenger window with a laugh. Oh, thank God. I hopped out and got in behind Angel. Even though my spacewalk in the bed was over, the flight wasn't. Outside my window was darkness and the unknown. I knew our final destination, but the road to get there was a mystery. My bearings were completely lost after a half dozen or so turns before we finally ended up on a road that I recognized. We were taking the back entrance to the property. As we maneuvered our way slowly through the farm, this time I wasn't going to look like a noob. I took my pistol all the way out, rolled down the window, and shined my flashlight out into the fields. I was certain we would run into someone this time around. Each pan of the flashlight I was expecting to see someone, but there was nothing. Surely, they had doubled and come back with more firepower, or they could have been hiding really well on our first scour of the property and had just come out. When we got to the front of the property, Teddy was already waiting there with Justin. Teddy wanted to regroup, rethink, and update each other before our next step. Floyd, how was Bozeman? He asked. Good. Seth is up and keeping watch. Told him to call me if anything went wrong. Awesome. And Hunter told me that you guys showed up at Rocky Road? I must have just missed you, Teddy said as he panned to Angel and Kelly, with a smirk breaking on his face. Yeah, dude. Kelly burst out with a long laugh. We literally pulled up to the gate and immediately had flashlights in our eyes and heard Hunter yell, "Get out and get the fuck on the ground." We all started hysterical laughing, picturing the whole ordeal in our heads. Kelly continued, "We had to yell back, 'Friendly. Friendly.' And put our hands up. The dude had his out and everything. Good shit, though. Rocky Road is clearly secure, so we left to Bozeman and picked up Floyd. I mean, at least Hunter was doing his job and taking it seriously. The Smoky Mountain Man was on top of it. He was good in our books. We laughed and joked for a couple more minutes, but then Teddy wanted to get on with it. In his eyes, we still weren't in the clear. We decided to split up and patrol the property again. I took Brad's truck from Teddy and he went with Kelly on foot. Angel hopped in with me and we started on another perimeter patrol. The whole perimeter drive we continued to laugh about the night. He told me that Kelly was having a bonfire at his place when he got the call. Hold on, I think I see something. Let me out, Angel said as we were driving up to the ditch. I couldn't see what he saw, so I stayed put as he disappeared off to my right. I leaned my head back on the headrest and closed my eyes for a brief second. I needed to digest everything. I needed to get back to baseline. There was no whiskey, wine, or CBD oil around to calm my nerves, so I was forced to deep breathe instead, just like on the airplane a couple of months prior. I noticed my heart rate dropping, my mind's chatter slowing down, and my mental clarity rising. My thoughts narrowed in. All right, I just got back from Australia, I was broke looking for a job in KC, then I came out here to help on the hemp farm thinking it was just going to be physical labor. Now I'm out here acting like a bounty hunter. This is badass. I'm a badass. It was all starting to be a dramedy show, climatic, exciting, and eventually, hilarious. As if I thought the bar was set at just farming this stuff, it was most definitely raised that night, and wouldn't stop from there on out. I opened my eyes, regained focus, and stared out into the void, driver's side window down, listening to the silence. It didn't last. Like a clap of thunder from a lightning strike mere yards away, so was the sound of a shotgun blast. I jumped in my seat, hit my head on the roof of the truck, and whipped my head toward the sound. Someone got ambushed, I was sure of it. But just in faint view from the truck was Angel, holding his shotgun at the ground. He had accidentally fired it into the ground while jogging back to the truck. "Sorry, my bad," he yelled. "Jesus dude. Trigger safety," I yelled back. About 10 seconds after that we could hear more sets of footsteps running our way. Naturally, it was just Kelly followed by Teddy. "False alarm, that was me," Angel repeated. "Hot damn. Thought y'all got jumped," Kelly said, and we all busted out laughing again. We were getting nowhere. We hadn't found anybody, hadn't found any other evidence or leads, and our seriousness was waning. So many ridiculous, and now funny, things had happened that all of our composure was lost. "Okay, I think that whoever must have been here is now long gone. There's really nothing that we can see that was left behind nor any other clues. I'm gonna stay here for the night with Justin if you guys can take Floyd back to Bozeman," Teddy said. The others agreed as I hopped in with the duo and drove back to the hemp-filled barn that was now cherished even more. It was like the Fort Knox of hemp, and Goldfinger was narrowing down his plan. Tonight may have just been a distraction. Maybe it was just to test us. We wouldn't know. In fact, we would never find out what exactly happened that night. Did someone try to use our own box truck to rob us? Was it an inside job that got foiled? Or was it that someone from earlier on in the day left the truck running with Lincoln Park's hybrid theory blasting? The mystery had us fooled, but that's okay. Important implications and changes were on the horizon. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that bell notification to be reminded when new chapters are posted each week. And until next time, don't forget to have integrity.